It's early morning in the 15th century Florence. The sky is still tinted orange, and the narrow cobblestone streets are damp from the night air. Church bells echo across the city, pulling people out of their sleep. You open a wooden window and smell baked bread from a nearby market stall. There's no electricity, no engines, no glowing screens. Just the sound of merchants setting up shop, horses trotting past, and distant chatter in the plaza. If you're an average person, you might be an apprentice in a painter's workshop. Your day doesn't start with coffee. Coffee hasn't yet become Europe's obsession. Instead, you might drink watered wine or weak ale while preparing pigments made from crushed minerals and earth. Maybe you're grinding lapis lazuli into fine blue powder, the kind reserved for painting the robes of the Virgin Mary. Your hands are stained with color before the sun is fully up. Art isn't just expression, it's labor and chemistry. Life is physically demanding, deeply religious, and centered around community. But something is changing. Scholars are rediscovering ancient Greek and Roman texts. Artists are studying anatomy. Thinkers are questioning old assumptions. It feels like the world is waking up. And that awakening is what we now call the Renaissance. So recently, I've been looking into art pieces. Well, masterpieces, some might say, from the past. More specifically, from the Renaissance. If you don't know what the Renaissance is, it was a cultural movement that began in the 14th century and lasted until the 17th century, which is around the 1600s. It started in Florence, Italy, and gradually spread throughout Europe. The word Renaissance literally means rebirth. A rebirth of interest in classical Greek and Roman philosophy, science, literature, and art. It began largely because Italian city-states became wealthy through trade and banking. Powerful families like the Medici funded artists and scholars. At the same time, Europe was emerging from the Middle Ages, and there was a renewed curiosity about human potential, anatomy, mathematics, and realism. Art shifted from being purely symbolic and religious in style to become something more human-centered, detailed, and scientifically observed. This era gave birth to some of the most famous artworks in history, such as the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, and the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael were among the brilliant minds who crafted these masterpieces. Now, why am I making a video about this, you might be asking? Well, it's partly for study and partly for appreciation. Not everyone who starts drawing, or creating art in general, actually knows what the Renaissance is. Personally, when I first began my art journey, I had no idea what the Renaissance period was. I was heavily inspired by video games and anime, especially Dragon Ball Z. That was my entry point in art, into art. So consider this video somewhat of a mini history lesson, not just for you, but also for my younger self. Renaissance art adopted a unique form of realism that sets it apart from many modern styles. Artists focused heavily on anatomy, proportion, and perspective. Linear perspective allowed them to create depth on a flat surface, making scenes feel three-dimensional. They carefully studied the human body to achieve lifelike accuracy. Techniques like the chiaroscuro, the strong contrast between light and shadow, added drama and volume to their subjects. Compared to much of modern art, which can be abstract, stylized, or conceptual, Renaissance art aimed for harmony, balance, and naturalism, rooted in observation. Now, although he lived slightly after the Renaissance period during the Baroque era, one of my favorite artists is
Cesare Fracanzano.
His painting depicting the martyrdom of Ignatius of Antioch also known as Saint Ignatius, where he is being devoured by beasts, is incredibly intense and dramatic. The emotional weight, the realism in the human form, and the use of lighting really capture that transition from Renaissance balance to Baroque intensity. You can feel the suffering, the movement, and the spiritual weight of the scene. Another artist I deeply admire is William Adolphe Bouguereau, even though he lived much later in the 19th century. His painting, the
Pietà,
also known as the Piety, which shows Mother Mary carrying the body of Jesus, reflects an incredible level of technical mastery. The softness of the skin tones, the anatomical precision, and the emotional tenderness in Mary's expression feels almost photographic. While Bouguereau wasn't a Renaissance artist, his commitment to realism and classical techniques show how deeply Renaissance principles continue to influence artists centuries later. Whether I'll adopt this classical style in the future, I'm not sure. I genuinely admire it, but I'm also still exploring my own artistic identity. To be honest, I'm currently juggling several things in my life as I work toward building a better career and future, outside of art and content creation, of course. Because of that, I won't be able to upload weekly, so please bear with me. I still have a list of video ideas prepared, but it really depends on whether I decide to execute them or not. So that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.